Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Clear Process Solutions web tip session. This is going to be revolving around the Precisely Automate platform. And today we're going to tackle kind of a big subject, and we're going to take a look at how to use the form process launch. So we're calling this Demystifying the Form Process Launch. And this is a rather big topic, so we're going to split this up into 3 sessions. And I promise there won't be any cliffhangers, but over the course of the next few months, we'll dive into a little part of the form process launch. And hopefully by the end of the series, you can understand how it can be used, what it's for, why it can give your organization some benefit, and also understand how to configure it and use it and get it to work correctly. So to start out, what is the form process launch, right? So what is it when we have a form process launch, and why would we use it? Um, you know, why can it be useful to me, right? So a form process launch in a form and workflow solution basically allows you to launch another request, if you will. So you go into your form and you launch a request, and then based on some setting that you put in your form or some data, it can potentially launch another request automatically or multiple requests from that first initial request. Um, so what what examples do we have? So um, a good example would be perhaps you have a material process, right? And you, in your new product development process, and part of bringing a new product to market, you need to create material master records for the finished good, the semi-finished good, and all the raw materials and the packaging materials. If you had a material create solution, you could allow that solution to launch itself for each material needed. So in the first request, you could say, I need a finished good, I need a semi-finished good, I need 3 raw materials and a couple packaging materials. And then when you submit the form, it could go out and create a request for each one of those so that the correct people are looking at these requests, approving these requests, and so on, right? So um, that's the really great thing about it. And the other thing that's great about using this is you can keep your solution smaller and easier to maintain and enhance later on. So you can have that form and workflow process manage the creation of, for example, your customer master records in SAP. And that alone can be a pretty large solution. Perhaps a subsequent process once the customer master is created is to create a customer master information records, CMIRs, or maybe you need to allow users to link this customer to existing customers via partner functions. Those can all be smaller solutions that can then be launched from that original customer master create solution. So those are just a few examples of why we would use a form process launch and what it can be used for. So what we'll do now is um, jump into a solution and just kind of demonstrate at a very high level how it works. So what you see here on the screen now is just a very simple form. So it's a form and workflow solution, but you're seeing the form. And this is our parent form, if you will. This is our initial request we're going to submit. And in turn, this is going to launch several other processes based on the information we provide. So for example, this is an example of a field that we would put some information into, and this would be shown on all the requests that we launch, the child process requests that we launch, it would be shown on all of them, and it would be the same on all of them. So I'm just going to put that kind of text in here. We'll just say that this text will be seen on all child processes. This text will be the same. Okay. When I tab off, it's going to set this field right here in my repeating table. And the reason we're doing that is because the type of process launch we're going to demonstrate today is using a repeating table. So the repeating table that I have in my form will create a new request for every row in the table. So when I tab off, you see that that automatically got set here, right? So then I can have some text here that's specific to this first request that I'm going to launch. You see here, we say the first request. And then I'm going to basically say that the originator of that request is going to be me. And now I'm going to click Add New Row, and you see that this is defaulted to be the same text here because it's going to be the same on every request I launch, right? This might be a summary of the overall project, for example, that you might be doing. And then here, I'm going to say this text will be specific to the second request. Okay. Imagine this being like, okay, this might be my finished good, this might be my semi-finished good, and then I might have all of the different fields that I need to have, at the requester step, at the originator step, maybe a description, maybe I have a base unit of measure, or if it's a customer, maybe, I have the customer name and some search terms or things of that nature, right? It'll just get the process started, and then we can capture the rest of the information as each of those individual requests are routed around to the people that know that information, right? But this is just a very simple demo to show you that we can specify different values for different requests, and then also from an overall perspective, give some sort of comment to the overall process. So I'm going to pick myself as the originator for this one as well. And we'll see in later sessions that this originator here is going to get set in that child process into a different swim lane, but we'll cover that a little bit later. So now what I will do here is I'll go ahead and hit submit. And what's going to happen is that workflow will now be started, and it will go out and through a series of plugins create new requests for those two individual rows that I added in that table. What I'd like to do now is show you the parent form. So this is the parent form that we just saw, and I'm showing you this in the Composer solution, or the Composer development tool within the Automate platform. So you're familiar with the form we just saw. I'm going to go show you the workflow because that's really where we're doing this work. So I have a value setter that just sets this parent process to in progress. And then when it's done, it will set it to complete. That's not necessary for getting the process launch to work. What we need here is the process launch plugin itself. And then anytime you're going to use the process launch plugin, you want to have a wait plugin that comes right after it. That wait plugin will just hold things up a little bit and let all of the activities that need to happen to get those new requests set up and launched. It'll give it time, the background system time to make that happen. So if we take a look at the parameters of the form process launch plugin, we're going to go over this in great detail in session 2. So I'm going to kind of gloss over it today, but I just kind of want to give you an idea of what's happening. So to start with, we have to basically specify what we want to launch. So the app that I want to use is this JKing app. That's my test app in our environment. The library is forms. I want to launch a form. And then the process that I want to launch is called process launch demo child. And it's asking me, do I want to just do a single process, have a one-to-one process launch? And no, I don't. I want to be able to launch multiple, which is what we saw when I had the two requests in the repeating table. Now, speaking of which, repeating group or repeating table is the method I was using. There is a difference between Automate Foundation and Automate Evolve. In Automate Foundation, your option really was to launch processes using the repeating table. In Automate Evolve, we have three different options. We can do it from the repeating table, as we could before, with a slight twist that I'll explain in a minute. You can do it from a reference data list, which is the equivalent of a SharePoint list back in the foundation environment, or an app group or a SharePoint group in the old environment. But these new options are only available in Evolve. The next thing you'll notice is that it asks for a swim lane, and I've put requester, and we'll see that in a minute in the child um, solution, where we're resolving this requester swim lane for a very specific reason, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and then also more detail in part 3. I have to then specify my app and a user library, and I have here reference data lists, and then you see a user solution, and it says process launch users. So in Evolve, we need to also have a list of users. So you can't just simply say, I want to launch a request from this repeating group and have somebody resolved. If I want to resolve that swim lane, the swim lane has to know where to go and look and find these users, right? In Foundation, we didn't need to do that. In Foundation, it would just use a specified group, and you could even put visitors, and then that usually made it so that it could be anybody. You could resolve that swim lane to anybody. In Evolve, we have to use a reference data list and have all the users that could possibly um, be the requester of the second process or the child process. They have to be in that list, and we have to specify that list here. And then we have to say, here's the column in that list where you're going to get the user ID, or if it's an email, it can be an email, that's fine as well. But ultimately, what value are you going to use, whether it's a user ID, a user name, a user email, to resolve that swim lane. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail a little bit later on as well. But then you have to also have a query. So you're going to, in order to find this user ID, I'm going to take user email, and in my solution, I've also set a field in that repeating table, which you're not seeing because it's hidden. We don't need to see it on the form, but it's capturing the email. So when I open the form, a current user control captures my name, the date, and my email. And I'm using that email in this query, and I'm looking at the column in the reference data list right here for email. And that's how I'm going and finding my user ID. And that's what I'm going to put in the requester swim lane of the child process. And that might make a little bit more sense in a minute. The rest of the fields are largely related to mapping. I have to tell the solution which repeating table in my solution that I want to use to launch the processes right here. And then do I want to resolve the swim lanes? Yes, I'd like to resolve that requester swim lane. Autosync fields I have set to yes, because basically any field that's named the exact same, has the exact same XPath in my parent solution and then in my child solution, the value will just automatically be passed over. And that's really useful if you have repeating tables that you want to pass over. Otherwise, if you don't have them named the same, or they can't be named the same, you can set up mapping here, and you can map one field in the parent solution to the corresponding field in the child solution, okay? And we'll touch base on this a lot in session 2 and go into the details of the different types of ways you can resolve the swim lane or launch the child process. But for now, just wanted to give you an overview of what was happening, and of course stall a little bit because we have some wait plugins that we talked about a little bit ago that need to happen, and it takes some time. So my tasks don't show up right away. We have a 1-minute wait right here. Again, that just gives that process launch plugin the time that it needs to um, basically do all the computing that needs to happen to create those new processes. And then in the child process, which I will show right here. So this is my child process. There's a pre-launch wait, another 1-minute wait. And that kind of gives the child process an opportunity to get all the values set that are coming from the parent, set the form name control, or set the form name via the form name control, and do what that needs to do in order for us to get this launched. And then depending on the type of form name template you have, if it's using form fields as part of that template. So for example, if you're capturing plant in your form and you want that as part of your form name, the number of your form or the name of your form, um, because that happens at the start and that value may not have been in there yet, you may need to do some setting of that data in the workflow. Um, but we can kind of go over that in a later session as well. So what we should be seeing is at this point, when I go out to my tasks, I should see this task, two requests with this task sitting in my task list. So let's go take a look and see if that in fact is the case. And here we see we have request 81 and request 82. So if we look at the first request that was launched, 81, if I open that form up, we're going to see that it says right here in this parent form comments, this text will be seen on all child processes. And this text will be the same on all child processes, right? And that's that first value we filled in that I said was going to be the same for everything. And then down here, we have the child form comments. So it says this text will be specific to the first request. So that makes sense. This is the first request that was launched. And you can see that that text came over. So I can complete that task. And then I see my second task, 82. So when I open that one up, again, you can see the text here that is supposed to be the same for all processes is still the same. And then here we see that the text will be specific to the second request. So we can see that this is my actual second request. And you can imagine if you had specific information, like for example, my first request was a finished good, it would have, hey, I want material type FERT, and I want this description, and I want this base unit of measure, and whatever information you needed to put to go along with that. And the second one would be, this should be a HELB, and it should have this description and this base unit of measure, and so on and so forth. And you can see how you could use that to launch multiple processes that are all tied back to one overall request, right? So I'll go ahead and complete that task. And that pretty much wraps up our demo, just to show you how a child process can be launched from a parent and how we can do multiple process launches from a single process. So, um, if there's any questions or you want to contact our team, get in touch with us, get our expert advice on how to do some of these things that you're seeing in WebTips. Here's the contact information. Feel free to contact us. We look forward to hearing from you. And I look forward to seeing you all again next time when we talk about um, form process launch, demystifying that form process launch. And next time we will get into the parameters of the plugin, and we'll look in great detail at both Foundation and Evolve and the differences between the two plugins, because there are some pretty significant differences. So thanks for listening. Appreciate it. And hope you're all well and have a great day.